Hello everyone, welcome to the session 4 of the course Strategic Sales Management. As far as session 3 is concerned, I definitely gave you a perspective about the objectives of sales management. And I had also told you that as we'll move forward in the next session, I'll be giving you, or maybe we'll be discussing it with a different approach, I would say, altogether. So as far as this session is concerned, after going through this, you'll be able to recognize the complexities in sales management, spot the characteristics of modern selling, comprehend the redefined objectives of sales management and their relevance, appreciate the importance of the prefix strategies before sales management, and you will be aware of the trends in sales management, and finally we will be understanding how selling happens in a VUCA world. Now, see, again, I definitely gave you a perspective on objectives. Now we also have another element in which we'll be learning redefined objectives of sales management. But before that, we really need to understand the complexities and modern characteristics of the present selling environment. So one of the key complexities that the sales people face today is increasing consumer expectations and buyer dominance. See, I think maybe we can understand this with an example. Just imagine if maybe say Reliance or any other big group like Walmart, if we look at it from the global perspectives, goes ahead and buy something. Just imagine, with, or maybe from the perspective of sellers, how much dominance they will have. They might even be in a position to change the terms of the contract, or maybe bring in certain conditions that are more beneficial for them. And see, even with respect to increasing competition and globalization, when you have a lot of players who have entered the market, even in domestic markets, the competition is at its peak. The consumer knows that he can get what he wants, and see, when many options available, they are also going to go ahead and kind of demand much more than they deserve. I think it might look more cliche, but definitely it makes sense, because every consumer wants to make the best out of their penny. So even in the sales world, the consumer expectations are skyrocketing and buyer dominance has increased manyfold. And as I just told you, that this can also be looked at from the perspective of increasing competition and globalization, there are a lot of implications for this as well. So one is, see, when you have a lot of players in the market, definitely the negotiation power of the buyer is increased, right? Because when he knows there are 5 people who are willing to provide him the same product at a certain price, he is definitely going to negotiate more to get the best price out of it. Another thing is, it also requires us to have an aspect of Salesforce flexibility, which means they'll be able to adjust, or maybe you can say they must be trained in the way that they can kind of customize, their offerings for their prospects, in the sense like as per their requirements, or what is it that they expect from them. But again, I'll say the same thing, I think, which I have repeated earlier. Consumer expectations are fine, but you also have to make sure that the organization is not facing any loss. If these things keep happening, then long term survival is definitely going to be very, very difficult. And even with respect to the same perspective, when we talk about increasing consumer expectations, the sales organization, or maybe you can say, for better understanding, sales department is also required to be very, very customer centric. Now why this becomes important to see, only when they are customer centric, even in advance or proactively, they'll be able to modify their offerings with respect to the changing expectations of consumers, and also with respect to what the competitors are offering in the market. Now another thing which again kinds of holds a lot of relevance with respect to changing consumer expectations is, the salespeople are required to be marketing intelligence agents. When they get out in the field, they have a lot of insights or information which can be very, very crucial and important with respect to understanding how we can better adapt to the changing consumer expectations. And again, see, in this case, when you are, say, you are in middle of conversation with a prospect and he has certain kind of expectations, you can't be in a position where for everything you say, oh, I'll have to call my boss and ask him what I can offer. If for everything you are saying, even the prospect would say, then let him come. What is it that you will be doing, right? So the whole point of giving you this perspective or discussing this facet is that we really need to focus on empowering our sales agents in a certain way that they are able to offer tailored offering to the prospects when they go and meet them. Now another complexity which has kind of revolutionized the sales world is accelerated product life cycles and changes. Now one thing is very obvious, we know how things keep changing. When technology changes, even the product requires a lot of modifications. Even in phones you can see, right, some are not compatible with respect to, let's say, the newer versions of Android, or maybe if you are talking about Apple, these things keep happening. And see, the perspective of technology also gets far-fetched with respect to the fact that whenever a new product comes into the market, it could be more beneficial for the customer, maybe with respect to decreasing their cost or offering more of productivity. So this is another thing that we need to keep in mind with respect to the changes. And how can we forget the social changes that keep happening, consumer preferences, how they are changing, how the social fabric is changing. So these things have also need to be taken into consideration. Now when we talk about accelerated product life cycles, see, I'll explain this to you with an example. Let's say if earlier, a product, while passing through the 4 stages like introduction, growth, maturity and decline, it used to take, let's say, 10 years. Now that's not the case. You might even come across certain products who could be introduced and they might not even survive and they just go through decline. And other thing is, in every of these stages, whether that is introduction, whether it is growth, whether it is maturity, whether it is decline, sales strategy has to be very, very different. Like I'll explain this with an example. Let's say in the introduction stage, the more focus could be more on creating awareness. So in a way, missionary selling, which means the people who get into the field and talk to prospects or customers towards kind of creating a positive image of the brand or the organization or whatever they are offering, or maybe primarily just making them more of aware about what is it that the organization offers. This could work very well in the introduction stage, or maybe advertising is also going to pump in, or other sales promotion techniques is kind of giving that extra push to awareness at the introduction stage. But as and when you are moving forward, let's say when you are in the growth stage or even when you are in the maturity stage, the strategy which the sales department will adopt is going to be very, very different. Like in the growth stage, the sales department might realize that we need to customize offerings, or maybe we'll be competing on the price point. Likewise, at the maturity stage, they might focus on kind of even digging further or going further with respect to customizing offerings, because we anyway know that we have reached maturity stage and we need to kind of retain our existing customers. Likewise, in the stage of, which is the last stage, which is decline, the sales department might even recommend that these are the products which are not doing well on the basis of the feedback that they might get in the field. So just imagine, even when you are looking at the sales department, it's not like they are into selling. They have the inputs that they can share at different stages. Even if we look at a micro concept like a product life cycle, we are not even getting into the broader domains of marketing. So right, so this is one of the complexities that has crept in, because the kind of accelerated, or maybe we can say shortened product life cycles also bring in a lot of pressure on the sales department. When new products keep coming in, they have to be very, very readily prepared to pitch them to the prospects and make them understand how this is better than the last one, or even how this is better than what the competitor is offering. Now another complexity which we'll be talking now is about sales technology advancement and automation. Now let's look at automation primarily, because again that is going to be a part of technology. See, whenever you are talking about sales automation, in a way it indicates that whatever mechanical jobs the sales people were doing earlier manually, like maintaining records, or maybe kind of trying to find out prospects with respect to doing a lot of research, understanding their businesses, now these everything can be done quite easily with the help of technology. Now the good part is, definitely it kind of eases out the job of a salesman, right? Because as per one of the reports by HubSpot, it says that only 28% of the time of a salesman goes into actual selling. Other goes in the other kind of jobs, maybe meetings and doing other things. So automation kind of eases that. But the whole point of understanding this is, see, we can't miss out that element of human touch when it comes to sales. So this is one thing which we need to understand. The organizations are definitely required to kind of brainstorm what is it that we need to automate, and it is going to enhance the what you call that, efficiency of the salespeople, or will help them make best use of their day's time, and what is it where we need to maintain that human touch. Like just imagine, you are attending a presentation on a laptop virtually and someone coming and giving it to you physically. It is definitely going to make a lot of difference, because that will definitely give you more of chance of striking conversations or striking a relationship that might give you that extra edge, right? So another complexity that we need to understand is multiple buying influences. See, you need to take care of the legal things. You also have to kind of satisfy the consumer activist. If your product is, let's say you came up with a product and you want to sell it, and it is not, it has some ingredient which is not very healthy for children. If the product is targeted children or even adults, you know that it might not work in the present times. So the whole point is, when you talk about multiple buying influences, apart from taking care of the legal and all these things which can be looked at from the consumer activism thing, or NGOs stepping in, we also need to see, even when we get on the negotiation table, you might have someone who is influencing the decision. He might have different expectations, right? You have someone who might have a different set of benefits in getting that product, so his expectations are going to be different. You might have someone who could be driven by, let's say, the competitor's product, and might feel what the competitor is offering is better. So in a way, you have to satisfy all of these people. That's why we say, in the present selling environment, what is kind of dominating is team selling approach, where you have people from different departments who kind of work as a team to satisfy, or maybe convince the other party, or maybe create a win-win situation with respect to answering all the queries what the prospect or customer has. Or in a way, this is more of a technical or more systematic or organized approach with respect to having different people with different skill sets, in which that you will definitely be able to strike the best deal, in a way focusing on the win-win situation. Now the another complexity which has creeped in is diversity. Now one thing is, definitely if you are dealing with customers in global markets, the culture is going to be different, and this also indicates that you also need to have some members in the sales team who can communicate with them, or maybe will share that a kind of a rapport in which the other party is also going to feel comfortable. And this can also be looked at from the different perspective. Now you might have customers who are coming from different walks of life, different cultures, even if you are looking at domestic markets with different educational backgrounds, different professions, who might have different demands with respect to what your organization is offering. Now, I think if you look at the next complexity, which basically talks about the level playing field, or maybe social selling, this basically indicates that all these social media platforms, it kind of created a level playing field. In the sense, like if you look at traditional modes of communication, let's say advertising, all these big players would be able to afford a slot, let's say in the prime time on a television show, or maybe one of the popular series, or maybe on news channel, something like that. But with respect to social selling, it is all leveled up. You can create your own channel, whether that is Instagram or maybe YouTube, or you can open an account on Facebook, and you can reach out to the everyone you want. It's just that you need to be creative with respect to how you contact them or how you present your products. So all these things are going to make a lot of difference. But the best part is, it is now a level playing field, because maybe you can say the world has more become like a global village which has been empowered by the internet. Now the last complexity that we need to understand with respect to sales management is, you definitely need to get into consultative selling. It's not like you have manufactured something and you just get to the customers and you are telling them what is good about the product and things like that. It's not going to work anymore. You really need to be a party with them with respect to understanding their requirements, with respect to understanding what is it that will be best for them. Even if the case be, you really need to understand their processes with respect to offering the best deal or coming up with something which will create a wow factor. So I hope everyone, you got an idea about the complexities that we usually have in the sales management, right? Or maybe what sales world is dealing with these days. Now, as far as the next topic is concerned, in which I really want you to understand the characteristics of modern selling, or if we need to understand this in a different way, maybe we can say how traditional selling is different than modern selling. Now, the whole idea is, in traditional selling, the focus was always about on somehow selling the product to the customer. You are maybe not very or not at all customer centric. The organization would manufacture the product and the sales team would get into the markets with respect to somehow selling that, but that's not the case. So traditional selling was all about this, right? But modern selling is completely different. So if you look at modern selling, we'll be looking at facets like addition and deletion of customers, building customer relationships, adding value, problem solving and system selling, information and database management, supporting marketing activities, use of social selling. And what next? I'll explain you the essence of what next as we'll move forward. Now, one thing is, when you talk about customer development, retention and deletion, see, as per the Pareto principle, it is only 80% of the company's sales come from 20% of the customers. So this simply indicates that you need to decide where are you going to divert your resources. I'll give you one example with respect to this. Let's say if you have a segment of customers who are buying a major chunk of your products, right? So you definitely need to give them that much importance. On the other hand, or maybe let's say on the another spectrum, you have a set of customers who are kind of taking up most of your time, buying very little and are not contributing much. So in a way, you need to decide if you will be taking them with you or not. See, the whole point is, you really need to figure out if such customers who are not profitable right now, will they be profitable in long term. If the case be that they are not going to add any value in terms of profitability, growth, then the best or wise decision would be to drop them. See, we always have been aligned with the idea, sell it to every customer who is available, but that might not work for every product, right? If you are investing a lot of resources even in giving demonstrations or coming up with the product, and you have a customer who is only fixed about pricing and wants the maximum of discounts, things might not work for a long time. So the good part is about understanding you need to work a strategy towards identifying which customer is good or is beneficial or profitable right now and also in the long term. So just nurture them, and you need to drop the customers who are not profitable now and are also not going to be in the long term. Now, the another important facet of modern selling is CRM, customer relationship management. You really need to work on nurturing long term relationship with the customers. Your focus should not be just about closing the present day sale. See, if your emphasis on striking very good relationships, just imagine how magical it is going to be. You will have more of opportunities to cross sell and upsell to these customers, right? See, even if you get to traditional approach or traditional perspective, in a way salespersons are required to meet their targets, right, in some way. So the whole point is, if you are nurturing the relationships, you will always have someone that you can get back to and kind of pitch the new products that the organization has launched. And the other part is, how can we even forget the power of the positive word of mouth that it might bring, right? So another important, maybe you can say, the perspective about modern selling approaches, adding value. See, again, you should not be aligned with the thought processes of somehow selling. The salespersons are required to have that skill set in which they are able to understand or offer products that meet customers' need. See, it is not always going to be the case, the customer will understand what is it that he wants. Let's say you get to a customer who has just started his business, right? In a way, you might have more information with you which could be more beneficial for him than you somehow selling the product which kind of offers you more of incentive. This is not going to work these days. So the whole idea should be about identifying the best ideal need product fit, right? Now, the another important context, or maybe something which is kind of key relevance in the orbit of modern selling approaches, problem solving and system selling. Problem solving, why? Start helping your customers understand their problems and offer a solution which is the best. Don't just have the idea of, I somehow have to complete this sale. You have to be their consultant. At this point, I also would like to rectify one thing. I think in one of the last sessions, I basically spoke about the salesperson can also be a friend or a mentor to the prospect or the customer. So I would advise you that the better word would be a consultant. That's why I have highlighted this in green as well. So the whole idea is be their consultant, make them understand what is good for them, what will work best for them. And when you talk about system selling, it basically talks that, see, if something requires not just one product, maybe 2 3 product and also an element of services, you can always offer them a blanket contract in which you are willing to provide them everything that they need to keep their business going. So system selling basically is about offering them everything which they might need, in the sense like for getting a job done. You might not be able to do it for everything. Let's say if there are 3 4 spare parts which your prospect requires, that even when you don't have any one of them, you might have a subcontract, get it, and then you are providing it to your prospect as a part of system selling. And even you can have an element of after sales services and repairs with respect to that. So the whole idea is selling definitely goes beyond just a one day affair today. Other part is which is about information management or maybe database management is, see, as far as today's sales dynamics are concerned, you really need sales people to be very well equipped with respect to storing and handling customer data. The whole point is all these, things like ERP systems or CRM systems can definitely provide an edge to salespeople, or maybe it can make it easy for them to record the customer's data and then use it for drawing a lot of good insights that can actually be beneficial in long term. And anyway, when you talk about information management, it definitely also works as a faster mode of communication, right? It can also help you kind of plan your next day. Maybe you can have a software like, let's say, when you are scheduling your appointments, it can also send you reminders that you have this meeting tomorrow and you can work towards this. All these facets of information management are definitely going to bring in a great deal of benefits. Now another facet which again I think you'll be able to understand with respect to the discussion that we have had till now is that a modern salesperson's job is not going to end with respect to just selling or maybe even maintaining or providing after sales services. He has to assist a lot with respect to the marketing functions as well. He needs to support in marketing research, provide right kind of information or enriching information from the ground, which can be very useful with respect to understanding the modifications that we need to change in product or how we can design effective communication. Let's say I might feel that the USP or unique selling proposition that I have is price. I might feel that. Whereas the salesperson might pass us the information, if whenever we are talking with the clients, they are more aligned with, the idea of the trust that our organization enjoys in the market, or maybe you can say among competitors. So we can also bring in that element with respect to the effective communications program. So the whole idea is, the job is not going to end with respect to just selling. There are a lot of facets in which a salesperson can bring a lot of insightful findings or maybe contributions. Now the last part is social selling, which is again one of the characteristics of modern selling. Social selling simply means now a lot of companies are selling on social media platforms. Now as per one of the Statista reports which is published on April 6, 2022, social commerce in India is expected to touch $84 billion by 2030. See, just imagine if this is what going to happen. There are definitely people who are selling the products on social media platforms, right? So every organization is also required to have a strategy for that. Maybe what are the products that we can best sell, on social media platforms, or also with respect to understanding whether Instagram is going to be a good fit for the product with respect to sales, or Facebook or LinkedIn. See, let's say if you have come up with a very quirky brand for apparels, definitely Instagram would work well for it. Now if you have something which is a little more professional or a kind of a software solution, right, which can kind of ease out a day's job, then LinkedIn is definitely going to work. So social selling is definitely going to stay. Now you might be wondering what next. Now the good part is I gave you a lot of perspectives about the complexities and maybe characteristics of modern selling. Now I want you to think what is it that we can add to this list. So you all know that you have a forum, so go and share your ideas there. We'll read them and then we'll get back to you. The whole idea why I gave you the perspectives about characteristics of modern selling, and maybe you can say what are the challenges that exist or complexities that exist in the present sales dynamics, was to just to kind of make you more aware of the redefined objectives of sales management. So the whole idea is things are not going to work if you are plainly going to think of profitability, sales volume and growth. So here is a list of redefined objectives that we really need to understand. Customer centric selling. Don't just think about selling the product today. Be customer focused, be their consultant, try to understand what is it that they need, understand their processes and see how you can help them improve their processes, which anyway will create a win-win situation for both. And the perks are you definitely get to build a relationship with them for long term, and then again the spiral of cross selling and upsell is going to be very easy. Create a rewarding mix of customers. Just tell me one thing, would you like to get into a job that demands a lot from you and is not paying quite well? Then why would an organization want to sell whatever it is manufacturing with all the effort, with all the money that is being put into at a loss, right? So you need to create a rewarding mix of customer. Try to identify what is it that you want to retain and what is it that you want to let go, or even think about those customers which are not profitable now but could be profitable in long term. I think I'll explain you this with one of the examples. I may not be able to track it with a very exact reference. See, there is a particular segment of customers who are very fussy about going to the banks and getting their passbook updated, and this has been happening for a long time. They would get to the branch, they would get their passbook updated. In a way, they are taking a lot of time of the officers, right, which anyway can be put into or spent on those customers who could be profitable or could be more rewarding for a bank. That's how they came up with the idea of this passbook update kiosk. In a way, now those customers are going to the kiosk, getting the job done and then just moving out. So the whole idea is, maybe even the banks realized how they can kind of better use their time, and they need to divert it to the customers who are going to be profitable for them, not on customers who are just coming for jobs which are not adding anything for the bank. See, after all, it's a business. They also need to survive, they also need to get in or supplement their resources by selling more or doing jobs that are more profitable. So again, I'll repeat it, create a rewarding mix of customers. Let go of the customers who are not profitable. Anyway, that is not going to work for an organization. Have a relationship focus. I think I've already explained this a couple of times. Now, when you talk about growth, always focus on sustainable long-term growth. Now, this can happen in many ways. One is it comes through the profits, that a sales organization brings in with respect to selling the products. But when you are in touch with the customers, you can definitely bring in a lot of ideas that are going to work for an organization. How can we forget the example of Tata Ace? By doing some research or interviewing customers, they were able to realize the gap, and we all know now that how profitable or turnaround this has been for the Tata Group. So the whole idea is focus on long-term sustainable growth, come up with ideas, have products, and again work on relationships so that you are able to serve those customers for a long term. Even when there is a crisis, or you have a bank of customers that you can reach out to with respect to achieving your targets, which again is going to make a lot of contribution in keep an organization going. Another thing is learning sales organization. An organization cannot just shut its eyes and stay within the four walls of a room, or maybe you can say behind the walls of an organization. You need to be in very touch with what is happening outside, how the social fabric is changing, what is it that the competitors are bringing in, or the new products that have come into the market, the changes that are happening on a global level. Only when you are in touch with what's happening in the market, you will be able to adapt. And just imagine what happened to Nokia. I don't think I need to discuss that in quite detail. It is finding it very hard to survive now, and we all know that, just because they were not able to adapt to the changing market dynamics or changing consumer preferences. Again, salespeople are required to assist in innovation with respect to the conversations that we have with the people on field. They can definitely provide right kind of feedback. Higher accountability. See, a salesperson definitely has a boundary spanning rule. It is not that he's only responsible to an organization, definitely, from where he gets his salary. And but he's also responsible to customers. That's why, again, see, the whole perspective is about you have an accountability towards the customers, be their consultant, be the listening post, try to understand what will work best for them, and you will see the magic. So I thank you for attending this session, and I'm very hopeful that you gained something out of it. So as we'll move to the next session, again there is something thrilling. We'll be learning about one of the gentlemen who holds records with respect to making maximum sales in a month. So thank you guys. We'll be meeting soon for the next session.